You are live in the Circle Leadership Headquarters studios on a Thursday morning here in West Australia, 8 a.m. It's time to go live. And today we are going to talk about one of the most important things to Circle leadership. We're going to talk about the circle of organizational leadership. So this live stream is all about, leading people, leading teams. Uh, One of the things that's really important to us is that we believe that there's a need for new organizational models. When we think about what we would have deemed to be the future of work, which is probably now the present of work, with a distributed network of working arrangements where people are going to be working from home, cafes, in the office, combination thereof. How do you set up an organizational structure where it facilitates still amazing collaboration, a strong sense of culture when people are in the office working from home or at a cafe or at a co-working space or wherever they might be? How do you still lead those teams? How do you with a lot of people have teams offshore, and we have, like on our team, Lisa's over in Queensland. We've got Gary and Payne in the US. We've got Jordan and myself here in WA. How do you create an organizational structure that allows for great leadership, great culture, great collaboration in a world like this today, and with the advancements of technologies and various other things as well that are available to us? So I want to just share with you just a couple of things, and then we're going to whiteboard some stuff as we usually do here on a Thursday morning. But I want to just really talk about, first and foremost, organizational models. And then from there, we'll talk in about leading teams, and it'll just flow in from that. So let me just bring up, we'll go to this one better. So this is one of my favorite quotes of all time. Buckminster Fuller, he was an industrialist from back in, I think, the 50s. But he said, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. In order to change something, build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. Okay, now this to me is really critical when you look at your organization and building out the future of what you want to do. Most people are just tinkering with what is. But if you really want things to change, instead of fighting the way it is, because isness is the death of your business, you got to create a new model that makes the old model obsolete. And this has happened numerous times in the world. We've seen it. We've got a new model of public transportation with the Ubers, Lyfts, Drive, DDs, and all that sort of things. New model of consuming entertainment that made the old model obsolete, or at least made it fairly redundant. You can see it in accommodation. You can see it all over the place. These people didn't just take existing models and tweak them. They created a new model that made the old one obsolete. So organizationally, when you put that into perspective, should we not be doing possibly something the same with the traditional organizational structures that exist in the world today? Now, I want to share with you two models. One, which is the traditional hierarchical structure of an organization, and the other is the circle of organizational leadership, which is the new model that we believe will make the old model obsolete. Now, as we go through this, please understand that circle leadership is called circle leadership because it's built on this core philosophy that we should have all-around leadership, not top-down leadership in organizations. So, see on your screen here that on the left is the traditional organizational models, and on the right is the circle of organizational leadership, model, if you wish. So, let's take a look at the traditional hierarchical organizational structures. Now, I know there'll be people out there saying, yes, but Dave, they've flattened them and all this sort of stuff. I understand that. But just take this as information. Because even in a flat structure, there's just less layers, but there's still the same things happening there. Now, in the traditional organizational hierarchy, this is what we call an ecosystem of leadership. Not because people have egos, but it's just because I'm the boss, you report to me, and you're my subordinate, right? So this way these things are set up. If you look at your org chart in your organization, get them out today, take a look. It'll be something that looks like this. Could be wider, could be flatter, it could be taller, it could be anything. But it'll be something similar to this. It will be an ecosystem of leadership, where the person at the top here, this person up here, is the boss. These three people report to that person. These three people report to each of these people. This is what we call an ecosystem of leadership. Now, when you look at these types of structures in organizations today, where does all the power sit? And usually all the power sits at the top. And then I would ask leaders, well, where does all the information sit? Well, most of the information sits at the coalface where the people who serve the clients, which is down the bottom here. So in these organizations, power and information rarely coexist at the same time or at the same table. So then when you look at that as a concept, also communication has to flow up through what they call the chain of command. So if the person in the bottom right corner has a really cool piece of information that might be really valuable to somebody in another team in the left side at the bottom, this person in the bottom right hand corner would have to go to their boss and go, hey, Dave, I got this really great idea about about Lisa over in Queensland in their department that could really help them. And Dave would go, hey, you know what? That's really awesome, but let's stay focused on what we're here to do. That's Jordan's team's responsibility. Lisa reports to Jordan. They can sort that stuff out. It's got nothing to do with us. We've got to focus on our piece. If you're putting energy into their stuff, you're not putting energy into ours, and then you're causing us to be falling behind and you're not focused on your work. And these are real dialogues that happen in organizations. But then Dave, as the boss, might bump into Jordan and go, hey, Jordan, I was thinking about your team, and one of the things I thought about was this really cool idea. And Jordan would go, Dave, you know what, why don't you just stick to your team? Let me take care of my team. Don't worry about that. We're good. We got this. And then one day Jordan will be talking to Lisa and her team, and Jordan will go, hey, Lisa, I've got this really great idea that might help you with your role. And then Lisa will go, well, that's great. People above me are trying to make decisions and stuff about my job, but it might be a great idea, so let me do it. And then one day Lisa and the person in the bottom right-hand corner here are having a conversation around the water cooler, and Lisa's going, oh, you wouldn't believe this thing that I'm doing now. I'm getting to do this, this, and this. And the person in the bottom right-hand corner is going, what the heck? That was my idea. Now, this is a real situation that happens in organizations. We create silos where everyone's trying to protect their own and make sure that they're achieving their goals, their budgets, their targets. They're not always working for the greater good of the organization. They might be working for the greater good of their team, but not necessarily the organization. So communication is always challenged in these teams. There's command and control. There's a chain of command. There's the boss subordinate. Usually the vision and all that is held at the top of the organization, and what I call organizational dilution happens as it trickles down to the bottom layers of the organization. So, but this is how all organizations majority of organizations in the world today are structured. Then on the right, we present to you the circle of organizational leadership. Now, I might actually just jump ahead here. So if you look at the circle of organizational leadership here, this is built on the concept of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, if you wish. Now, when I first designed this circle of organizational leadership, I remember I was sitting with Tim Gleason, LTL Expedited Air. If you're watching this came from our conversations. We were sitting there, and we just helped them crystallize their purpose for their organization, which was to create the smartest distance between 2 points, which was awesome. We created this set of values. We had then I just drew out a piece of paper that, there was Tim, there was Jen, there was Stacy, there was the other Tim, the IT guy, there was a couple other people, there was Gary, the sales guy. Anyway, so they're all around. So we just drew them all around. I wrote the purpose in the middle, put the values around that, and then said, what we need to do, make sure, Tim, is that every single person has a direct line of sight to the purpose through the lens of the values. Now, when it was a team of 5 or 6 people, that's quite simple. You can have them all sit around here. Now, how does this tie into King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and why would you want to put the purpose at the center and your values, and then have everybody have a direct line of sight to your purpose through your values? Well, obviously for a multitude of reasons. But when King Arthur created the Round Table, through folklore, it says that, people are saying, like, what's the madness of this Round Table? Well, King Arthur felt for men to feel like men, they must first be treated as equals. So from a circle of organizational leadership concept, please think that if you want your people to feel like people, then they must be treated as equals. They all have talent and abilities. You've hired these people because they have something to offer your organization. So let's get them all to sit around together and actually be a part of the process and be involved in decisions about the work. Get people involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work. King Arthur also, what he did is that if you look at, they had Camelot in the middle of the table, and around the table was carved this code of chivalry, which was their sense of values of being a knight. Now, you didn't get offered to take a seat at the table unless you'd already demonstrated out in your journeys and your adventures that you'd lived by that code of chivalry. And if you had, then you got invited to be having a seat at the table. Now, please also understand that knights are servants of their communities. So you had to have a servant's mindset as well at the same time. And then you got invited to sit at the table. Then King Arthur himself would belly up to the table, remove his crown, and sit at the table as an equal with all the knights. And then King Arthur's job was to facilitate the conversations so that the best idea for Camelot won, not the king's idea. So this way, power and information coexisted at the same table. Everybody felt they were treated as equal. King Arthur's role wasn't to be the king at that stage. His job was to facilitate and coach the knights to come up with the best answer to serve Camelot and make sure that we did it all through our code of chivalry. So organizationally, when you think about this for yourselves, it's the same thing. How do we create an organizational structure where we can have everybody feeling a sense of equal, where the power and information sit at the same table, everyone has a direct line of sight to the purpose through the values, there's no dilution of that, and that where you can become a coach, not a boss. And when you do this, you actually can forge a fit-for-purpose organization because everything's aligned to purpose. You'll have confidence that the workforce can deliver because your job is then to coach and facilitate the conversations with the team to make sure that we're delivering the objectives which should have come born from the purpose, values, vision, mission of your organization. Now, when you look at this in a larger scale, so that circle is the one in the middle here. So if this is your leadership team and there's me on the end, and then all of a sudden I sit at the leadership table and then I have my own team, I turn to the side and then the same process begins. So it's a very agile, flexible, if you wish, using words that are very popular today, model where you actually create a more fluid state of your organization. And that everyone's on a flat level. There's all around leadership happening. There's no top down. Everyone's becoming a coach, not a boss. We have the objectives that we need to accomplish. And we do that through the lens of our values to our purpose. And every decision that we make goes through there. And we're making sure power and information coexist at the table. And then if that person then has a team, then you can see it just expands out and out. And this is what we call an ecosystem of leadership. Because what is being determined today in the world is that we need to have this hierarchical structure is not working for people and organizations. You can look at the way what's happening around the world with the workforce and everything like that. People looking for more flexibility, not just in terms of working hours, but working arrangements, how things are. People want to become coaches, they want to be coached. They don't want to be boss. They want to be told what to do. So how do we create an organizational structure that allows that, that's fluid, that can move with the market, allows us to expand and contract as we need to as an organization? Well, we need to create an ecosystem. And this is what the Circle of Organizational Leadership is. It's an ecosystem. Now, we created this back in 2001, so we've been working with this sort of philosophy or methodology in organizations for that long now. And it is one of the most powerful shifts in an organization that you can make when you do that. Because top-down leadership is a thing of the past. All-around leadership is the way forward. All right? It's so important now that when we talk about building leadership depth and strength in the organization, please remembering our definition of leadership is about helping other people become the best version of themselves to do their life's best work while in your care and beyond. And you can't do that in a hierarchy, right? But what you can do is create a circle of organizational leadership where everyone feels treated as an equal, that they're involved in the work, that we're delegating outcomes, not the tasks. We're coaching them. We're not bossing them. We're helping them become the best version of themselves. We're flexible. We're adaptable. You can have a project team. You can have somebody from this circle over here, that circle over there, and the other circle down in the bottom corner here, all get together in a separate circle in a project where purpose still sits at the center. All decisions are made through the values. They're working on specific objectives of project there. And there's a coach of that team or a facilitator who's facilitating that circle. And then they disband back and go back to their original circles. All right. So this ecosystem here is the way to move forward. If you look at us as human beings as well, we talk about making organizations as great as the human beings that are in them. We're not built in linear systems. We are an ecosystem. We're a whole bunch of cells. If you remember human biology, we're all made up of cells. Okay, and at the center of every cell in our body is a common nucleus. So no different to our organization. Your purpose is the common nucleus of your organization, and that sits in every cell of your organization. And then there's a membrane that goes around that common nucleus to protect it. That is your values. Your values are there to be the guardians of your purpose. All right, and then all these cells all work together to create the wonderful organism that is us, the human being. So why wouldn't we build an organizational structure the same way that this amazing structure is that we are as human beings? So this is why we suggest to people to move to the circle of organizational leadership, because it just flows better with the way we are created as human beings, the way we feel and think as human beings, and allows us to bring out our best self. It also allows for collaboration. It allows for people to talk and make better decisions. So we talk about the decision-making filters. All of that comes by shifting to the circle of organizational leadership, right? Because the whole exciting part of this is that every single person in the organization now answers to something first, not to someone. Can you imagine an organizational structure where everybody answers to something first, not to someone? And that includes you, the leader, the owner, the manager, the director of the company. Now, I just want to quickly do one last little bit here I want to share with you guys, which will be on the whiteboard. All right. So here we are on the whiteboard. So once again, just as we discussed, please understand that the structure here, this is the ego system of leadership, and this is an ecosystem of leadership. Okay, and that here we have chain of command, communication. We have silo structures in our organization where everyone's trying to protect their own area, their own budgets, their own area of responsibility. And whilst I appreciate many organizations that people are willing to work together to help, but traditionally this is what happens in these organizations. When we talk about the word collaboration, we want to have a more collaborative team, collaborative leadership, and everything like that in our organizations. It's not a buzzword for a reason. It's because it's what we need to do. But most people think collaboration is the new wanky word for teamwork, where it's not. Collaboration, for true collaboration to exist, logos and egos must be off the table, right? And nobody should give a crap who gets the credit, and we should all be here for the greater good. So when somebody wants a definition of collaboration, our definition of collaboration is exactly that. When logos and egos are off the table and no one gives a crap who gets the credit, and we're all here for the greater good, that's when collaboration is happening. So in these structures, sometimes it's very awkward for collaboration to happen, especially when we have these silos that are built here, even at this level across this way. So when you think about the circle of organizational leadership, this is about making sure every single person has a direct line of sight to this client-centric purpose of our organization through the lens of our values. And everybody here is here answering to something, not to someone. So collaboration can exist. This is an ecosystem of leadership where there's coaches, not bosses. And just because you might be the head of your department or division doesn't mean you should be the head coach of that particular team in that particular moment. You might be overall, but someone else might be a great person to contribute to something, and they'd be better off to coach that or lead that discussion rather than yourself. Just because you have the position doesn't mean that you're the best person in the position to do it. And then so when we look at this, if that person there has a team, well, then they just turn around and with this part of their team, make sure that every person here does, right? And then this person here might have a small team, and then so on and so on and so on, and outbuilds the cells of your organization. Right? It's time for a new model for organizations in general, but it's also time for a new model that facilitates all-around leadership, where everybody answers to something first, not to someone, where you can become a coach, not a boss. All the information we've been sharing with you over the past, it's been almost 30 weeks now. Everything we've done leads up to this here is about creating an organizational structure where all this stuff can happen, right? Because when you try to take a new way of thinking and put it into your old way of doing, you will struggle. So I would challenge you, I really challenge you to think about how can we create an organizational structure that allows for collaboration, allows for fluidity of our, whatever's happening in the marketplace, our ability to adapt and improve and move along with things, where collaboration is thriving, where we can create all around leadership depth and strength. We create a culture where everybody's lifting everybody up, not where we're pushing people down or where people are getting stuck like this because there's no room to move in the corporate ladder. We need to rethink the whole organizational model moving forward. Now, I know there's other funky models out there and really cool stuff. Us, we like to keep it rather simple. I know there's like holacracy and there's flattening organizational structures and various other things. But if you look at the current structure of Amazon and a few other big organizations that are thriving today, they have an organizational structure very similar to the circle of organizational leadership that we crafted back in 2001 when dealing with Tim and his team at LTL Expedited Air. So, in order to lead your teams, you need to become a coach, not a boss. In order to lead your teams, you have to make sure everybody answers to something first, not to someone. In order to lead your teams, you need to make sure there's all-around leadership. In order to lead your teams, you've got to make sure that the best person is facilitating the conversations, not just you because you have a position or title. You have to make sure that the best idea wins, not just your idea or the boss's idea. Right? All these things, when you're leading teams, you need to get people involved in the work, involved in decisions of work. for decisions about the work. You need to empower your people to make smarter decisions. They need to feel trusted, right? This is why we make all the decisions through the lens of our values to our purpose, right? And build organizations as great as the human beings within them. Let's get rid of the hierarchical structures and move to a more fluid organization that just feels good to be a part of. So, leading teams, that's it this week. A little bit longer than normal, but there's a lot I wanted to cover with you guys because it's a really important session. If you'd like some more information on the Circle of Organizational Leadership, just put hashtag COOL, COOL, down the bottom. We'll get you some of the templates, things like that as well. We can even show you some examples of the Circle of Organizational Leadership and some other of our organizations where they've implemented this structure. Other than that, have a great week, guys. We'll see you next Thursday live here at Circle Leadership Headquarters Studio. Thursdays, 8 a.m. as always. Get out there and start creating a culture that lifts everybody up.